If you don't like history but still find yourself curious about the past, then this is for you. History is not just about dates and events, it's about the human stories that shaped our world. Today we're diving into one of those stories, exploring the untold fate of German soldiers after World War II. This chapter will take you through the varied and often harrowing experiences of these soldiers, shedding light on a lesser-known aspect of post-war history. We're diving into the untold fate of German soldiers post-WWII. The end of the war marked a significant turning point, not just for the world, but for the millions of German soldiers who had fought for their country. As the dust settled, these soldiers found themselves in a drastically changed world, facing uncertain futures. When World War II ended in 1945, millions of German soldiers surrendered, but what happened next? Their fates varied dramatically. Some were taken as prisoners of war, while others managed to evade capture and return home. The experiences of these soldiers were as diverse as the war itself, shaped by the circumstances of their surrender and the policies of the occupying forces. Many were taken as prisoners of war. The Allies had to deal with an enormous number of German soldiers, and the treatment of these POWs varied widely depending on who captured them. The conditions in which they were held and the length of their captivity were influenced by the policies of the Allied nations and the resources available to them. Those captured by the Soviets often faced brutal conditions in forced labor camps, where over 1 million never returned. The Soviet Union, having suffered immense losses during the war, was particularly harsh on German POWs. These soldiers were put to work in labor camps, often under grueling conditions, and many succumbed to disease, malnutrition, and exhaustion. Imagine surviving the war only to face another battle just to stay alive. The harsh realities of these camps were a stark contrast to the lives these soldiers had known before the war. For many, the struggle for survival continued long after the fighting had stopped, and the memories of these experiences would haunt them for the rest of their lives. On the flip side, soldiers captured by the Western Allies, like the US, UK, and France, generally faced better treatment. The Western Allies adhered more closely to the Geneva Conventions, ensuring that POWs were treated humanely. While conditions were still challenging, these soldiers had a better chance of survival and eventual release. Most were released by 1948. The process of repatriation was slow and complex, but by the late 1940s, the majority of German POWs held by the Western Allies had been sent home. This marked the beginning of a new chapter in their lives, as they returned to a country that had been devastated by war. But freedom came with its own set of challenges. Returning soldiers had to navigate a society that was struggling to rebuild itself. Many faced physical and psychological scars from their wartime experiences, and the process of reintegration was fraught with difficulties. After their release, many returned to a war-torn Germany. The country was in ruins, with cities destroyed, infrastructure shattered, and the economy in tatters. The task of rebuilding seemed insurmountable, and the returning soldiers had to find their place in this new reality. These soldiers played a critical role in rebuilding the nation. Despite the challenges, many of them threw themselves into the task of reconstruction. They worked to rebuild homes, factories, and infrastructure, helping to lay the foundations for the country's recovery. Some reintegrated into society, finding new paths and opportunities. Others weren't so lucky. The post-war period was a time of great upheaval, and not all soldiers were able to adjust. Some struggled to find work, while others faced social stigma and isolation. The psychological toll of the war and their experiences as POWs left many grappling with trauma and mental health issues. They faced prosecution for war crimes in the Nuremberg trials. While many soldiers were able to return to civilian life, others were held accountable for their actions during the war. The Nuremberg trials brought to justice those who had committed atrocities, and the process of reckoning with the past was a painful but necessary step towards healing. From prisoners of war to nation builders, the post-war journey of German soldiers was anything but simple. Their experiences highlight the complexities of war and its aftermath, and the resilience of those who lived through it. These soldiers had to navigate a world that had been irrevocably changed, finding ways to rebuild their lives and contribute to the recovery of their country. Their stories reflect the complexities of a world trying to heal from unprecedented conflict. The post-war period was a time of great change and uncertainty, but it was also a time of hope and renewal. The efforts of these soldiers, along with countless others, helped to shape the world we live in today. For more fascinating historical insights, don't forget to subscribe. Stay curious. History is full of untold stories and hidden truths, and by exploring them we can gain a deeper understanding of our past and its impact on the present. So keep asking questions, keep seeking answers, and stay curious about the world around you.